they're fusing those canes to form a disc. And Nancy is making what's going to look a lot like, on the end of a blowpipe, it's going to look a lot like a toilet plunger. And she's going to pick up the disc on the end of this toilet plunger looking thing. Now right now, they're going to torch the tip of that, and they're going to poke a little hole in the end. So this first part of the process, you can't hear me. Somebody turned my volume down. So this first part of the process, the goal is to pick up this matrix of canes, this disc of canes, on the end of this toilet plunger looking thing. And then after reheating and marvering and blocking and reheating to make that perfectly smooth, it'll be gathered over and blown a little bit bigger. And then, confusingly, they're going to transfer that thing, just the canes, not the clear part, they're going to transfer that to a punty and then transfer it to another blowpipe. And at that point, they'll begin the glass blowing process to make the finished object. They'll then gather over that 3 times. So this is preliminary work toward attaching it to the final blowpipe that they'll use for making the vessel. And Dave and Darren are in the process of squeezing that together, reheating it, compressing it, with the goal of closing up all the little gaps between the canes. If there are any gaps, it'll be a problem. Lino has just entered the room. There's Lino Tagliapietra, celebrated Milanese maestro, artist. He's taken a seat, which I think indicates that he's not going to bother to participate in this demo. He'll just let his team do the work. You're gonna just sit this one out? Okay, all right, okay. Lino, what shape are you going to make?
Make a one big body and long neck.
Okay, all right, okay, thanks. The ceramic shelf has a lot of kiln wash on it to keep the canes from sticking to the plate. That's what they're brushing off. It's kind of like flour in baking. So they're brushing that off. Oh, use the Black Sea mud or the, okay, all right, okay. So Lino's telling me they don't use kiln wash. They use mud from the Black Sea that people use as a facial scrub, mud from the Black Sea. And there is also, in the lagoon of Venice, there is a particular area where mud is found that's really good for this release material. But these days, Lino's preferring mud from the Black Sea. Maybe 25 or 30 years ago, Lino was demonstrating in New York at Urban Glass, and we sent somebody to Fifth Avenue to go to someplace at 5th and 57th, like Bergdorf Goodman or wherever, to get this incredibly expensive facial scrub that happened to be mud from the Black Sea, and it worked beautifully.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. Uh-huh. You know, the truth is virtually any clay works okay. You could, yeah, it works. Now you're going to see a lot of reheating and a lot of marvering in a block, marvering on the marver, and this is all to make the surface perfectly smooth. They're going to gather over this, and if there are any dents, it'll trap a bubble of air and it'll wreck the piece. Now, if anybody in the audience here in the studio has a question, just put your hand up. I'll come find you, ask the question, and if I can't answer it, I'll ask Lino. Most of the time. Most of the time. He moves around some. He moves around. Hi.
That he's made over the yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Will those be like shown on the website or anything so we can see the finished product?
Well, there's a lot of cold working that is done subsequent to the annealing, and they'll go to Murano. They'll be shipped to Murano, so it may be 6 months before they're. Oh no, they're not finished. A lot of cold working, does it? Yeah. The question. I'll ask him. I'm sure he does, but I'll ask him.
Because it's not propane, it's natural gas and compressed air.
That's oxygen.
It's oxygen and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
natural gas.
It
Not
is?
propane though.
Okay.
Propane be hotter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more prone to reducing. That may be why he doesn't want it. I mean, we watch out for
The
propane.
oxygen's way up.
Okay. Well, you.
Didn't have any problem.
Okay. Oh, with propane? I see. I see. Uh-huh.
That's what I love about it.
We-
Is when you get your hands inside them, they get that wonderful
Tactile.
texture in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You feel the tips of the white?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really nice granularity feeling. Yeah. I think this one. So, still quite wide. Quite wide. Quite wide.
Lino, did you make the Marini? Where did you make the Marini? In Seattle. Okay. The question was, where did the Marini come from? Lino made them in Seattle. There's the cross section. It's lots and lots of rods of white in a matrix of blue. Excuse me, I'm going to walk in front of you. Harry, I'm going to walk past you here. Excuse me. Thanks. I didn't see the setup, so I'm not sure. This is an example of the Marini cane. Not sure right now. It's no, he made them in Seattle. One at a time, exactly. He actually weaves them. It's like, say, you note that the tip is bullet-shaped, it's pointed. That's to help avoid trapping unwanted bubbles between the glass and the canes. This is a pipe cooler. It's just used to cool the pipe right down to the glass. The heavier the object gets, the closer to the glass the balance point gets, and it's very important to be able to hold the pipe at the balance point. The business of holding it straight down and letting the excess glass drip off is one way of ensuring that the coating of glass is really, really even. It drips off absolutely evenly, even if the gather itself was a little asymmetrical. Oh, hi. Hey. We use spruce pine. We love spruce pine. It's nice glass. Dave has the punty. Nancy is beginning to gather for the collar that will be used to hold this cane matrix. Are you on? Can I walk in front of you? Tell me when you're off. Okay. Sure. Hey, David.
Hey.
No cappuccino. I'm sorry, no cappuccino. I've been on duty.
You're on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Lino,
Been on,
what are you
huh?
making?
It's good for
That color.
You?
Just one cappuccino.
One, oh man, yeah. I've been on duty since 2:30, so. Excuses. Nancy has this incredibly irritating ability to make things like collars the right diameter for what she needs it for what she needs. And she doesn't use calipers. It's just always the right size. It's very irritating. Most people use calipers. I use calipers, yes. I first saw Lino blowing in 1982 at his factory Effetre. And there was one worker who did all the gathering. And Lino said he was incredibly good. And a few years later, maybe 10 years ago, I said, do you ever miss that great gatherer? And he said, oh, no, the best gatherer in the world now is Nancy Callan. Nancy. What are you saying? What's that? Nancy, did I ever tell you that? Did I ever tell you that?
I saw it on the video.
Oh, did I say that on the video? Did I? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he meant that I was better at picking up cane. I don't know.
No, he didn't. No, I said, no.
Gather?
There was one guy who did all the gathers back then. Yeah. He said you were better.
Wow.
Yeah. Not bad.
Who knew?
Who knew?
He did.
He
Now I know. I was over there and I could hear Lino say, no, gather the clear. It was
How can he do that?
like God.
Yeah, right.
Nice crowd in here.
That's nice. I know. You may wonder what the video cameras are for. There's a link up in the auditorium, so there are people watching in the auditorium. Also, this is being recorded, so in the future, you'll be able to go on the Corning Museum of Glass website and see these demos. It's okay. I'll say better. I'll get you.
Yes, take it.
I promise you I'll get you the cappuccino tomorrow.
Okay, Phil, that's
Cappuccino?
on.
That long wait before the gather was to let the first gather stiffen up a little bit. There's going to be another gather after this one, so that'll require an even longer wait. If you gather too soon, it resoftens the first gather and it all becomes unstable, and it's possible to lose control of it. So it's very important to know when to do the subsequent gathers. In fact, I think they gather twice over this. So there's going to be quite a bit of waiting time. Again, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. Ultimately, this is going to be one of Lino's shapes with a long neck. And that's a really interesting process if you've never seen it. You might think, if you know something about glass blowing, you might think the long neck is done on the blowpipe. It's not. It's going to be a vessel. It's got a flattened body and a long neck. So what he does to achieve the neck, to make the neck, he transfers the thing to the punty, reheats the open end, and attaches yet another blowpipe. This will be a record for the number of blowpipe transfers. He attaches another blowpipe to the opening and then pulls out the neck with a blowpipe. It's really pretty amazing to see. What? The shape viewed from the front will look sort of like this, like that. From the side, it'll be, yeah, like that. You like that. And then from the side, it'll be flattened. Yeah. It won't be a dinosaur. It'll be an angel tear. This furnace idles at 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, the melting furnace. The glory holes are usually 2125, 2150, something like that. Yes? Good question. How do they know when they've waited long enough before taking the next gather? Part of the way they tell is the color of the glass, the color of the end of the blowpipe. See the blowpipe is just slightly glowing right there. If we turned out the lights, it would be noticeably red. But a slight glow means that it's still above 1000 Fahrenheit. Stainless like this glows beginning in a bright room like this, glows beginning around 1150, 1200 degrees. Now you may notice there's a bubble in there. There was a bubble in the glass, and that'll have to be picked out. The bubble looks like it's right at the surface, but they never are. So the way to get that out is kind of interesting. With the tweezers, you'll see Lino very quickly excavate down to the level of the bubble, parting the glass down to the level of the bubble, and then he'll reach in and pick it out. Or he won't. Okay, so he just pulled the bubble out. He must have seen that it was closer to the surface than I thought it was, so he just pulled it out and he's cutting it off. You'll never see this. Maybe the bubble wasn't quite as close to the surface as he thought it was, so he's pulling a little further. Nancy's fire polishing the shear mark away. It's all. The gathering process is complete, so now the glass blowing begins. They'll do a series of processes of inflating the glass, elongating it. This is going to be big at the end, in the end. They'll inflate the glass some. A very important aspect is to keep the end, the outermost part, thick. So you'll see them marvering the end and rubbing it on the cold, wet wood block. The purpose of this marvering is mostly to cool the lower half of the bubble. The glory hole heats everything. The only way to control the temperature is to, or the best way to control the temperature is to force cool the parts that you want to be less hot. So that's the marvering going on. The other way to control the heat and to heat the parts you want, the other way to control the heat is to preheat areas with the torch, and that's what they were just doing. Now in the glory hole, those preheated parts will get hotter than the other parts. So the marvering cooled the outer half, the blowing on the upper half with the torch preheated the upper half, and in the glory hole, they're going to come out and everything will be about the same temperature. And now they'll begin inflating and elongating. And while the inflating and the elongating goes on, Lino will begin the neck, that business of making a constriction. near the blowpipe, and that will be the place where the vessel will be broken away from the blowpipe at the transfer to the punty. And you see Dave is holding this down so the mass of the bubble is pulling mostly on the uppermost part. So you get a narrowing. Lino's cooling the sides and stabilizing it. And Darren will begin to blow now. No, no. This will have very long neck, very long neck. Just a reminder that the neck, the uppermost part, the shoulder you see there, is just a preparation for the final shape. It's going to have a much longer, more narrow neck ultimately, and that's going to be achieved with it on the punty. Now comes the transfer to the punty. They're waiting for the glass on the end of the punty to stiffen up enough to support the weight of the vessel. That'll be a few seconds, and so while that happens, Nancy is going to blow the torch on various parts to keep the rest of the thing hot above 1,000 degrees while the punty glass stiffens up. That's most critical up at the very top near the blowpipe. If that gets too cool, it's very easy to have that crack when, after the transfer to the punty, they reheat in the glory hole. I bet you, yeah. Lino scarred up the constriction with shears, and now he's dropping a little bit of water on the constriction. Just as it takes the glass a long time to cool, it takes a long time to heat the glass. The neck was about 1,000 degrees when it broke, and it needs to be about 1,600 or 1,700 degrees for Lino to be able to trim the edge. And so this is an unavoidably long reheat. The first reheat after the transfer to the punty is always a long reheat. Nancy's made a collar on the blowpipe, and this is the blowpipe that's going to be used to pull the neck out. Now, if they used a solid punty, it wouldn't work because they would seal the vessel, and in the course of pulling out, as the vessel cooled, it would collapse. So the blowpipe allows you to do that pull and still have the inside of the vessel remain at atmospheric pressure. And Lino blew the torch on the shoulder because that's where he wants the greatest pull when he attaches the blowpipe and pulls. So during this reheat in the glory hole, that area is getting hotter than the rest of the vessel. And when they put the blowpipe on and pull, that's where you'll see the action. The neck is now stiff, and Lino's going to squeeze the neck with the pincers, and that'll make little cracks. Then he'll tap the blowpipe, and it'll break the neck. This is fire polishing the edge